We sure do. Well, some in Washington have decided that there is a fall guy in this whole AIG mess, and that fall guy is Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner. The scandal over the AIG bonuses, the last straw. Questions about what Geithner knew, when he knew it, and why he did nothing to stop it, now reaching a fever pitch inside the Beltway. Republican Congressman Darrell Issa of California is one of the first lawmakers to publicly call for Secretary Geithner to step down. He is my guest now. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning, Megan.
All right, so why? Why do you think Secretary Geithner should step down?
Well, the Secretary of the Treasury is interesting in that not only has he had the job for only 60 or so days, but he had the job in New York for the previous year plus. So he actually had the oversight and transparency and responsibility for AIG before coming to this job. This is somebody who should have known more, but certainly knew enough to know that these bonuses were there, and before giving tens of billions of dollars, had the ability to ask for those, demand, if you will, those to be renegotiated outside of bankruptcy, or if necessary, force AIG into a Chapter 11 where they could have been renegotiated to a more reasonable level.
But he says he didn't. I mean, the Treasury Secretary has come out and said he did not know about these bonuses basically until last week.
Well, the question then is competency. How could he have been the Fed chairman for New York, he was involved in the AIG bailout concept and how it was done and so on. So at this entire time that he's proposing these funds go into AIG, he didn't ask the questions. If he didn't ask the question, then instead of being wrong, he's incompetent. The fact is, anyone in 101 mergers and acquisitions or 101 loan giving, particularly for the equivalent of debtor in possession type financing, understands that these are things you lock down and lock down solid as to what you're going to pay and not pay before the dollars start transferring.
But the argument on the other side, the argument on the other side is the guys thought, you folks in Congress gave AIG $170 billion. This is and $30 billion more on the way. This is such a fraction. $165 million in retention bonuses that are going out now. These are the ones that are most controversial. It's a fraction. He had a lot of things to worry about, in other words, with respect to AIG, not to mention the rest of the country. Hindsight's 2020. Can he really be held responsible for this?
Megan, you're absolutely right that this is a relatively small amount of dollars. The problem is he is outraged. He's demanding and working with Congress to try to pull these dollars back. If he's going to be outraged at this amount of money, then why was it de minimis to not negotiate? He can't have it both ways. Either he's outraged or he realizes that these things were considered to be below what he thought he should micromanage. Take your pick. He can't have it both ways. He's trying to have it both ways. That's the reason that I think the president should not have enough confidence to retain him unless there's some explanation that we're not seeing. But we think we've got enough visibility to see he knew before they were granted. He should have known a year and a half ago in his previous position, and now he's outraged, and yet he let it happen.
Well, Congressman, let me ask you about this, because there's more heat coming down Treasury's way today, and that's in respect to this whole Chris Dodd dust-up. And the long and the short of it is, who's responsible for including a special provision in the stimulus bill that exempted AIG bonuses, that said, make sure you protect the AIG bonuses? First, they said it was Senator Chris Dodd, a Democrat from Connecticut. Then he came out and said it wasn't me, it was the Treasury Department. Now he's reversed himself a little bit on that, but he's still throwing the Treasury Department under the bus. The bottom line is Dodd is telling the American public it was in there at the insistence of Treasury, the protection for AIG bonuses. This apparently came as news to Tim Geithner. How do you explain that?
Well, Chris Dodd has received discounts from Countrywide in excess of even their own Friends of Angelo VIP policy that he claimed he didn't know. He claims he doesn't know that he got an Irish home at a fraction of what it was worth. So Chris Dodd has been somebody who's claiming he doesn't know an awful lot and blaming it on other people for a long time. The problem with Chris Dodd is he's very compromised as to whether he can be objective to the financial community, both because of the presence in his state, but particularly because of the benefits he has personally received over the years in campaign contributions and even direct money to him that he's received personally over these many years from these organizations.
But he's really pointing at Treasury now. I mean, do you think Treasury had nothing to do with it? Because that's Geithner's department, too. In other words, Geithner, who's been so upset about these AIG bonuses, according to Dodd, is essentially the man who was responsible for protecting them in the first place.
Well, it'd be a strange coalition, but I certainly would join with Senator Dodd in saying that Geithner has to answer for it, and the president should no longer have confidence in him, which leads to the question of should he continue to serve at the pleasure of the president. I respect the president's right to keep him if he wants. It wasn't us to hire him. It isn't us to fire him.
Right.
But I cannot understand how you can have confidence in Geithner after this kind of series of screw-ups.
Well, right now, President Obama is standing by Tim Geithner, and the word in Washington, at least for now, is he will not step down, nor is there any pressure on him from the White House to do so. Although, as you know, sir, things can change in that town very quickly. Congressman Issa?
I'm behind him 1,000%, as they say.
Oh, always a pleasure having you on. Thanks for being here.